No, you probably can't accept endorsements from Canadians. It's probably worthless. I would make a funny attack ad for you, but I found out after doing a lot of these interviews, I legally can't do that either.
White picket fence, get some type of animal, most likely a dog.
Yep. 2.5 kids.
Right, 2.5 kids. I'll be happy in life. But what happened is, as I continue to mature, as I continue to progress, checked off the military service, saw the military industrial complex firsthand, saw how struggle was the universal language, how I could go to different countries, different regions within the United States even, and just see poverty exist, even with individuals that didn't look exactly like me or have my exact experiences. But I was getting all these things, getting a job, getting a career, purchased a home, but I was still struggling. I was still unhappy. I saw so many people around me still struggling, living check to check. And that wasn't my dream, So I thought to myself, the game is rigged. Capitalism is the root cause issue that exists. Racism, sexism, homophobia, transphobia, all those oppressive isms and phobias that exist. They're tools utilized to maintain white supremacy and capitalism, to justify othering people and to justify keeping certain individuals in poverty. You have to have a top and a bottom in a capitalistic society. And once I came to realize that, I essentially said and told myself that I'm going to stop playing the game. I'm going to use every ounce of my energy that I have to educate students in my classroom, to educate individuals in the community. And I learn every day to continue to educate myself to truly push forward a movement to address the root cause issue that's capitalism. And I'll end it with this. I run my own nonprofit. I'm a teacher, used to own a small business, a LLC, employing at-risk youth. And it gets to the point where you're either going to spend the rest of your life treating symptoms, or you're going to give everything you have, no matter how long you have, addressing root causes. And what that looks like is either I could continue to feed and clothe the homeless, or I could give everything I have to end homelessness. And that's where we're at right now.
Man, that was just like music to my ears. I don't have any other questions. Thanks for stopping by. That was beautiful. I'm joking.
I mean, what else do you need from me? I did my own tech support. We're here. We're dropping knowledge. You helped me go viral. I think our circle's complete.
Okay. Why don't we start this? Because we're gonna get into the teaching and all the inspirational stuff. So why don't we start with some darkness first, and then we can uplift all the people watching right now.
Definitely.
I'll start with this. Thoughts on the Iran, both the assassination and the potential movement towards war, and then what would your particular, efficacy as a politician be in terms of if someone was to elect you?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I think, again, you cannot pander. I believe that when we're trying to push for a revolution, when we're trying to push for systemic change, it is on us. The onus is on us, and the responsibility is on us as candidates, as individuals that are in a fight, to try to further educate our communities. I think we have so many of our communities that, again, are in the struggle, but they don't necessarily identify the root cause because, and it's understandable, we're spending so much time fighting against symptoms, right? So we don't necessarily have time to step back and say where these symptoms are coming from. All we can do is put a Band-Aid on and move forward and hope that we can feed our family the next day. So in regards to war, I make it clear on a daily basis as a disabled military veteran that warmongering, the military industrial complex, placing war before the people of our country and other countries, because it's all about profit at the end of the day. I challenge individuals to name an engagement that we've been in, where we've, did a regime change, where we've destabilized, where it was truly about the common good and humanity, where it was truly about people. It's generally about profit and money. So I speak up against war on a daily basis. We have to end war. We have to 100% place this diplomacy first. The policy that Bernie Sanders and Ro Khanna just came out with to try to limit Trump's abilities and this, current regimes and administration's abilities to engage in war. I'm in 100% support of that because, again, this does not benefit us as people. And I don't want to just say America because, again, one thing that I experienced when I was in the military, they used to do prison runs. So they would chain, what we called insurgents down to the C-17 Globemasters. It was a cargo plane. They would be chained. They would have bags over their heads. And I'll never forget one time a bag got off of the head of one of the prisoners. And a military member came over and put the bag back on. But we made eye contact. And what I saw was myself. We spoke different languages. We were from different regions. We had different experiences, but we both I could tell we both understood the struggle. That was a human being. That wasn't my enemy. That wasn't a terrorist in my eyes. That was someone else that, based upon their experience, based upon trying to survive and look for opportunity, joined similarly or were forced to join, to serve. So we have to end war. We're losing our working class. And I say working class poor because the middle class does not exist in my estimation. We're losing our working class poor brothers, sisters, and they to essentially profit, to basically imperialism, to the oligarchy. This is not benefiting our society. The trillions of dollars that we spend on our military budgets, that can go, when everybody asks, how can we pay for it? That could go to our educational systems. That could go to our healthcare systems. That could go to investing in infrastructure. We look at Flint. We look at what's going on in Michigan. We still have rusty pipes, individuals drinking lead in their water while we're warmongering.
Yeah.
How could we better ourselves? So we have to step up. And as a leader, as the next, representative of Illinois 7th Congressional District, that's how I'm going to lead. I'm not going to sit back and wait for a wave to occur and jump on and pander to keep my seat safe. I'm going to try to be as bold as possible to educate my constituency, educate the nation on why it's important that we're bold and fight. And one more thing I want to say is, we can't say blue no matter who. We can no longer survive under that. We can no longer survive under they vote the right way, because the incumbent in the 7th Congressional District of Illinois, Danny K. Davis, he voted for the National Defense Authorization Act of 2020. So he's complicit, and all others that voted to allow that are complicit as well. So we have to stop it. We have to.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be totally honest. A Joe Biden candidacy is just marginally better, like by such a small degree that I wouldn't even celebrate. I don't think I would just be like, okay, well, Trump's gone.
Yeah, I mean, there is no celebration. I think we have to understand whether a Democratic or Republican president in office, whether a Democratic or Republican controlled Senate or House, those that are in the 99%, we've been working class poor our entire lives. Yeah. So when Obama was in office, I was working class poor. Trump in office, I'm working class poor. Trump is not the root cause. He's a symptom. He is carrying forward the legacy of this nation that, again, is built upon capitalism and white supremacy. What we did to the Native Americans, what we did to Africans and African descendants, women, the Chinese when they came over and built the railroads. We could go on, and it's a legacy of theft. It's a legacy of oppression, and it's a legacy of consistently placing profit before the people. So we have to change that. So yeah, Joe Biden win. That's not a victory for the working class poor.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. So what was your story? You went right from being in the military to directly saying, I'm going to run for office? Like, was this?
Not at all.
Okay.
No, not at all. So yeah, try to keep it as short as possible. So for me, again, growing up in a working class poor family, seeing my mother and father work 60, 70, 80 hours a week. My grandmother helped take care of me while they worked. I have an older half brother who, I love him to death, but, he struggled as well. He served also, but, ended up in and out of incarceration. So I saw those high levels of recidivism rates. I saw the prison industrial complex firsthand. We've lost friends, lost family. So growing up in all this, my family, my mother and father scraped together their money. And, I don't know if you ever seen the movie Coming to America with Eddie Murphy. It's a classic comedy. They're actually coming out with a sequel, but it's a scene to where they literally like spin the globe and pick a location to where they're going to go. And, it ends up being Queens, New York. My family grew up on the south side of Chicago, Morgan Park area, and they were literally looking for and searching for, greater safety and better opportunity for myself. And they picked Oak Park, Illinois, while the majority and the rest of my family remained on the south side or, the west side of Chicago and, what many call the hood or urban areas. And at an early age, I saw the disparities to where you could literally cross the street and everything changes in regards to safety, in regards to access to opportunity. And it hit me. But of course, early on, I didn't know how to fully articulate it. But I would see it when I would go visit my grandmother. I would see it when I would go visit my cousins, and then have to come back into a community like Oak Park, to where we were one of the few Black families present at the time, and still feel like I didn't belong. Due to, the other oppressive isms that exist in our society. So I was always interested in how to address those situations. But because I was young and still trying to find myself, I oftentimes make, bad decisions and wrong decisions, just trying to struggle through. But, again, being exposed to Muhammad Ali, being exposed to the Black Panther Party, being exposed to all these different movements that existed, Medgar Evers, Nelson Mandela, apartheid in South Africa, I had all of these ideologies within me. And I think they started to matriculate into my mind and come to fruition. Actually, when I got shot, I was shot in 2007. I was medically discharged in 2009. But when I was shot, you just have a flashback. You're resting up, you're healing, and you think to yourself, what is my purpose in life? Am I just going to live through status quo, knowing that things are wrong, knowing that things are inequitable? Am I going to be afraid to risk and sacrifice things because I'm going to lose a friendship, because I may lose a family member, because I may not get promoted, I may not get a job? Or am I just going to say to hell with it and just use, again, everything I have to try to make change, to try to change things for the next generation so they don't have to experience what I did and they don't have to experience what my ancestors did? Because, I'm only one generation, 2 generations away from sharecropping and slavery. It wasn't that long ago.
Yeah.
So, again, after serving in the military and going through the Troops of Teachers program, and I became a teacher on the west side of Chicago, working in an alternative school, it just all became to, come to fruition in a sense of how our military industrial complex exists. That system's broken. Our educational system is broken. The school to prison pipeline exists. We're losing so many youth. I've lost 12 students to gun violence in my 11 years of teaching.
Holy shit.
So
I'm so sorry to hear that. That's terrible.
And again, it happens. And it continues to happen because we're not changing anything systemically. The issues are interconnected. So I began to want to do more. I became a teacher. That wasn't enough. So then I formed my own nonprofit, Suburban Unity Alliance, to where we've done everything from help DACA applicants to protect churches being harassed by white supremacist organizations, to help small businesses. We pay for healthcare. We pay for education. We pay for mortgages. We find new homes for individuals because we know rent's a huge issue. We're fighting for rent control. So we help pass, collaborate and help support PASO in passing the Welcoming Village Ordinance. We changed the racial equity policy in our district. We changed the sexual assault policy within our district. So we've done literally everything. And from that work, I don't believe in individual accolades. I received the Villager of the Year award in 2017, whatever they may mean, because, of course, oftentimes you're fetishized. When people consider you a leader, you're placed on a pedestal. From that nomination, brand new Congress and Justice Democrats received nominations from the community stating that I would be a good candidate to run for Congress. So they reached out to me in 2017, informed me of this. And I started to think again. Muhammad Ali has a quote that says, "Service to others is the rent you pay for room here on this earth." I was constantly trying to do more and more, teaching, nonprofits, started a small business employing at-risk youth through lawn care services. And it still wasn't changing anything because I was just treating symptoms. So I told myself, if I accept this nomination through brand new Congress and Justice Democrats, meeting people like now Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Cori Bush, Paula Jean Swearengin, and so many more, this is the ability to address root cause issues by changing policy, which by design throughout history has led to our oppression. So that's what led me to run in 2018. We ran a 100% grassroots campaign. Didn't know what the hell we were doing. We were learning as we were going, but it was beautiful to see those connections in the community made. We got about 30% of the vote. That was the most anybody's ever received against the incumbent. And we're back building that momentum for 2020. We have over 17 endorsements in this race from Chicago Democratic Socialists of America. Shout out, comrades, to People for Bernie Sanders, to Our Revolution, Buffalo Grow, Rizoma Collective, 25th Ward IPO. The list goes on because we're really boots to the ground and we're building these coalitions and creating these relationships. And we have to change things. We have an incumbent, again, who's been in office in his current seat for over 20 years. The vast economic disparities that exist within our district. You could literally cross the street. One community is 120,000 median income. Another community is 80,000. Then you go to another community, you cross another street, it's 20,000, it's 30,000. The Austin community within our district used to be the largest community in Chicago. It no longer is because individuals are moving out, migrating in vast majorities because they, again, like me, they're in search for opportunity like I was at a younger age. So we have to fight. I can't accept hypocrisy. We have a current rep that says he's for immigration rights, but then takes money from Amazon and works directly with Amazon, who works with ICE. We have a rep that says he's for Medicare for all, but takes money from Big Pharma. We have a candidate, incumbent that says war is wrong, but again, you just helped pass the National Defense Authorization Act. And where were you, by the way, when Democrats were engaged in warmongering also and drone strikes, because it's just not a Republican issue. So it's time to get true leaders in office that are speaking truth to power and are not afraid to rock the boat, and I'm not scared to swim.
You're a really dangerous interview for me because it kind of ruins any kind of sliver of journalistic integrity I have left, because I just want to scream to the mic. I'm like, vote for this man, please.
No, I appreciate that. You got a little shoulder.
Okay. Let's break it down. Who's the what's the name of the incumbent that you're battling?
So correct. My name is Anthony Clark.
Sorry. Who's your opponent?
Oh, Danny K. Davis. Danny K.
Okay,
Davis.
so we got to do one of those. Danny K. Davis.
Danny K. Davis. There you go.
Tell me why he's terrible and why you're amazing.
Yeah, again, to sum it up, because I can be long-winded at times, there's a difference between treating symptoms and focused on individual progress and safety and addressing root cause issues and pushing for progressive change. And that's the clear difference between the incumbent and myself. Mm-hmm. We're not happy with status quo. The incumbent blames Russia, points fingers at Russia, points finger at Trump for issues that existed prior to Trump becoming in office, for issues that have benefited the Democratic Party. Meanwhile, we're addressing the root cause issues, calling out capitalism, calling out white supremacy, patriarchy, and the current oligarchy that exists that leads to the vast economic despair and inequity that we're facing. It's a class war. And we're the only campaign that's speaking to that, speaking truth to power, while currently he's sitting back. And you know what? I have to say this, and I think it sums up perfectly why, I believe it's time for change. In 2018, when we ran, he ended up, he got concerned because he saw some movement growth and, we were having an impact. He crashed one of our events, looked me in my face and told me that the reason he was going to win was not because he was better than me, but because of name recognition. He doesn't come. Danny K. Davis said this, and his literal slogan was the name you know, like on all his, like the name you know.
That's so status quo. It's like, I guess no other choice.
The name you know. But that's how much, I believe establishment Democrats, the machine, that's how much they value their community, a community that's impoverished, a community that at the time had 4%, the unemployment rate of the national average. Now we're down to about 2.5%, which is still ridiculous. High levels of gun violence. I've lost 12 students to gun violence. Only one has been solved. But this is an incumbent who ran on the name you know and only came out when it was time for election season, handing out a few turkeys, put out a few yard signs, attend a few church events, and then they go back to their office and relax. Meanwhile, we're the ones bleeding. We're the ones that are boots to the ground, paying the price on a daily basis to push for change. And, I'll end with, in 2018, Danny K. Davis was not for the legalization of cannabis at a federal level. Mm-hmm. We were. We pushed him on that issue. He wasn't for it. Then he said, okay, we'll decriminalize and leave it at a state level. Leaving it at a state level is still inequitable because then you see other states coming out. We just, legalized January 1st. You see Wisconsin coming out giving edicts that if you go to Illinois and purchase and you come back, we'll be waiting for you to push you through that prison system because you're profitable for us. So we need someone who's boots to the ground, 100% grassroots, not beholden to the big pharma, not beholden to, Amazon, not beholden to the military and prison industrial complex, and not beholden to the party. You have to put people first. And that's what we're truly doing. And that's why you need to vote for Anthony Clark 2020.
What are your chances? Is it going to be like an AOC kind of dream ticket, boots on the ground kind of story? Is he deeply entrenched, rich, wealthy, all that kind of stuff?
I mean, he's deeply entrenched, and I don't want to overgeneralize, but honestly, throughout his history, he has not had to be a large fundraiser. We beat him individual fundraising. Of course, we're 100% grassroots, but his coffers usually are around 250 to 300,000. And because what people don't realize, it's not just the Republican Party that benefits from divestment, that benefits from lack of voter education, predominantly in urban communities that are Black and brown, similar to the 7th Congressional District. We do have, majority white areas, but the largest demographic within the 7th is still the Black population. There's vast divestment. We have individuals that simply put their yard signs on the ground, don't talk to the people, don't come in and try to fight for any type of change, and just expect our people to be content, with government assistance and handouts while we're dying. So he's been entrenched and he's been extremely comfortable with us running again in 2018, getting about 30% of the vote. That moved individuals. Individuals started to wake up. But similar to what we see nationally, particularly with Bernie Sanders blackout, they still try to use those similar practices locally. They black you out. Pay newspapers and media that are tied into the establishment that are also corporate. They don't want to talk about you. They don't want to print anything. They avoid debating you. They'd avoid even trying to say your name because they know. Once the public hears that there's options and opportunity out there, once the public realizes and recognizes that there's a soldier and warriors out there, and I don't want to use, military jargon, but we are warriors in this class warfare. We're fighting. for Medicare for all, for a Green New Deal, housing as a human right, federal jobs guarantee, addressing, common sense gun reform, addressing food deserts that exist, so on and so forth. We could continue on the vast inequities that exist in regards to women's rights, disability rights. We're even for decriminalization of sex work, because sex work is work. You have to identify the interconnected issues that exist. Yeah. It's valid. So you can't be for women's rights, disability rights, trans rights, gay rights, so on and so forth, workers' rights, if you're not for the decriminalization of sex workers' rights, because it's interconnected. A livable wage. They're fighting for 15. Let's be honest. $15 is not enough. Yeah. It's not tied to inflation. So we have a chance. Every fighter has a chance. And we've seen so much growth this cycle as well. And we have to also understand there have been so many people throughout history, whether they've been establishment or not, that have lost. Bernie Sanders, for example, he didn't receive the nomination last time, but look where he is now, leading on Medicare for all, leading on the Green New Deal, and making individuals shift. They don't even believe in it. They don't believe in the ideology, but they know they have to shift and talk about the ideology. Other individuals have lost. If you truly want to win, you cannot be afraid to lose. We're in this to win. We have a great chance to win, but it's going to continue to take Herculean efforts from our volunteers, our believers, myself, our donors, our supporters. But it's worth it, because we're truly trying to fight for revolutionary change. Yeah,
Ashley, one of our mods, is spamming all your links in the chat right now. So we got your Twitter, your donate link, your website, and your YouTubes as well. Oh, and you were with the Humanist Report. Awesome.
Definitely. It was nice. With the Humanist Report. That was a wonderful interview. And what I'll tell people again, if you're listening to this and you're thinking about volunteering, or better yet, whatever you want to do, but donating, in regards to donate, even $1 makes a difference. We recognize how hard each and every one of us out here is struggling and working for our money. We're day to day. I'm check to check. I'm helping family. I'm helping friends. But even $1 makes a difference, because again, like I was before, prior to running, we can either accept status quo and just experience a slow death or a quick death, or we could give everything we have left for systemic change, revolutionary change for our generation and the next generation. So a donation to the Anthony Clark 2020 campaign is bigger than us. We're part of a movement. It's bigger than one candidate. It's bigger than one race, but it's donating to the revolution.
That's awesome. Could you elaborate a little bit? Someone's saying, and I wanted to hear more about this, how Amazon was tied into ICE, because that's the whole database fiasco, right?
Right. They use the facial recognition technology, the database fiasco. Amazon basically has been working with ICE. I believe the technology comes from Amazon in regards to, utilizing that technology with ICE, with local and federal departments to, identify individuals that they believe are, undocumented, because no one is illegal, but undocumented immigrants. So Amazon's complicit. And even if Amazon was not working with ICE, just take that off the table. They are. But even if they weren't working with ICE, Amazon is part of the problem, because Jeff Bezos is a billionaire who does not pay his workers. Many of his workers are on welfare. Many of his workers die while working, and then the factory continues to go on and ignoring their death. So it's a huge issue that exists, the vast wealth disparities. Jeff Bezos and Amazon plays a direct role in that, but they indeed are working with ICE in regards to technology, in regards to profiteering, working directly to identify who they believe are undocumented immigrants. So that's the role that they play. It can be looked up, it can be Googled, but even without that, because we are fighting truly for our immigrant populations. They're our brothers, sisters, and they, but just the vast wealth disparities that Amazon plays a role in, not paying their fair share in taxes, billionaires not paying their fair share. It's a huge issue that exists.
You're the first person I've heard who says brothers, sisters, and they. That's non-binary inclusive? That's pretty cool.
Correct.
Yeah.
I mean, again, as I stated earlier, I learn every day. I thank my parents for raising me to love everyone. Love is love. I believe you're born the way you are. And unfortunately, throughout history, the stigmas that have existed, the oppressive isms that have existed, have led, unfortunately, many individuals to not be able to be themselves. And again, it's an interconnected issue. How many individuals are homeless due to their sexual orientation or gender? How many individuals cannot make a livable wage due to their sexual orientation or gender? How many individuals are murdered
or forced into the military, like you were talking about earlier?
Forced into the military. Look at the violence that our Black trans women are experiencing on a daily basis. So
absolutely.
Being a teacher, I have so many non-binary students, so many agender students, transgender students who I love, who teach me on a daily basis. So you have to be sure. Again, I'm not perfect. I improve every day, but to utilize, inclusionary language and let everyone know that they matter and that we're fighting for them.
Some people in chat are suggesting you start using SIBS, short for siblings. So brothers, sisters, and
okay. Hey,
I was like, okay, that's got. It sounds like it's got a better flow to it, anyway.
There you go. Hey, I can say I pick something up daily. So SIBS. There you go.
right now, very exciting time. Looks like Bernie Sanders could take Iowa from Pete Buttigieg. Looks like Bernie Sanders could take New Hampshire. How are we feeling right now? Because I've heard historically that if you can take both Iowa and New Hampshire, you've pretty much got the Democratic nomination. And like around maybe 3 or 4 months ago, I was not as excited as I am now. Where I'm like, this is we're here. Like this
Right.
history is happening.
Yeah, I mean, we have to have hope. If you don't have hope in the struggle, why are we here? Why are we fighting? You might as well give up. So we made a conscientious effort early on, even though it didn't personally benefit us because we're in a district that was leaning early on towards Biden, leaning early on towards Harris. We had, Elizabeth Warren coming in and try to peel away many of that Bernie support. But we were the first congressional campaign to endorse Bernie Sanders in Illinois. We're bold. When we knock on doors, we're just not knocking for ourselves. We're also knocking for Bernie because, again, we're facing a class war. And he's the only one pushing for, I believe, true systemic change. You cannot defeat capitalism with capitalism, no matter what it is, black capitalism, gender capitalism, it doesn't work. So, yeah, we've been pushing and we're optimistic because even on the ground, we've seen shifts and changes to where when we first started, some doors we would knock on and, talk about ourselves and Bernie, we just get the door slammed in our face. Yeah. But now we're in those same communities and you're hearing people, starting to open up more. And we do it through just sharing our truths. So we believe that, again, the struggle is the universal language that exists. Being in the military, I ran into individuals that were from Iowa. I served with individuals that were from Iowa. We had completely different experiences, but the one experience that we shared oftentimes was poverty, was the struggle. And I think it's, he's been consistent throughout his history and it's starting to pay dividends because people are starting to realize that, we're focusing on our differences all the time. But let's focus on that class similarity. We're part of that class struggle. We're the oppressed. So let's come together, bring our identities, bring our diversity, bring our differences, and enrich and enliven the class struggle that we're in to make it even more powerful so that the establishment cannot marginalize any movement. They can't look at a women's movement and say, well, those are only women or those are only white women. They can't look at a Black Lives Matter event and say, oh, those are only black people. No, we have a diverse base that are tired of struggling, tired of the class warfare, and they're ready to win. And that's what Bernie's bringing. Everyone else, I don't believe so. They're capitalists. They're tied to, the establishment. They may say the right things, but when you look at their history, when you look at how they pander and then they start to shift, Medicare for all, to me, is the barometer. That's the measuring stick. Bernie's been the only one consistently for true healthcare as a human right. Everyone tried to start there, but then you slowly see them. You slowly see them coming back. And, what I challenge people to do, if you're on my page, it's on Twitter, you can find that. I think I posted it to Facebook as well. I actually went to South Bend, Indiana, for our revolution event. And then what I did afterwards was went into the community and talked to many of the Black Lives Matter activists that crashed the event he held at one time in South Bend. And again, struggle is universal. You see the same issues to where they communicate. He's not even leading his own city, his own town, but yet he's running for president. Police departments, that vast disparity that exists to where he convinced the community to invest millions into police cameras and body cameras, and they're not working properly. Police could turn them on and off when they want to. He's not holding police accountable. He's not investing in Black and brown communities, but yet all the money is going to, the downtown districts that are predominantly white. So again, he's running for office. Someone who stated that he didn't understand that schools were segregated. Someone who communicated that he thought the founding fathers didn't think slavery was bad. This individual is actually has a chance. So we have to be strong. We have to be powerful, and we have to be as bold as possible in communicating that if you're part of the problem, if you're taking corporate money, you cannot be part of the solution because corporate money is part of the problem.
And I assume then you don't use super PACs. You're 100% individual donors.
100% grassroots, 100% individual donors. And similar to Bernie, the story I like to share, we had a huge December. I was actually hit by a car in August leaving a campaign event. It was a hit and run. My entire leg was broken. I had a fractured ankle, torn ligaments, and it was one of the most depressing times I've ever experienced. But my team stayed, because I was bedridden. I couldn't walk. But my team stayed consistent. My parents, everyone believed that they stayed consistent. But our campaign dived in regards to fundraising because we weren't actively out there. We weren't actively fundraising. But something happened to where, again, what are you willing to risk and sacrifice? So, I got out there with a leg scooter. I was hopping upstairs, falling downstairs. But it eventually we came back, similar to Bernie's health scare on a much smaller scale, of course. But we almost had a $30,000 December, and for someone like us, that's huge because our incumbent, he doesn't have a national platform. Like, he's not vilified. He's not hated by the masses. He's not a Republican. So oftentimes it's easier to fundraise in a sense when you're trying to shift, turn a party, blue, or so on and so forth.
Yeah.
But
the
30,000,
right?
Exactly. But 30,000 in December, we're increasing, and it's been a beautiful thing. We didn't let a hit and run stop us. I wish that individual well, whoever did it. I keep them in my prayers, and hopefully they ran for a reason. So, but we're here and we're fighting.
Wow, it's just harrowing. You're like, I got shot in the military, I got ran over, and we're still going. Nothing's stopping this.
I mean, you can't. Again, I'm not a hero. I'm not a martyr. I'm just someone who is tired. And not tired in regard to sleep, but just someone that is tired of the vast economic disparity that exists, the systemic oppression that exists for everyone. And I mean, again, it's the saying, like, I'll sleep when I'm dead. Like, I'm gonna give everything I have and play my role in this movement. And what else is there?
Yeah.
Everything's political. So
do you guys have polling numbers at that kind of level? Is there information already? Did you know how you're ranking up against him?
No, we don't. We haven't done polling yet. Okay. We're planning on, hopefully engaging in some polling. What I did challenge individuals in the race, because like last time, there were more individuals in the race. They challenged our signatures. That's a strategy that they often utilize to try to kick us off the ballot. So in 2018, we had to spend $12,000 to fight, frivolous challenges, and we won. But the other individuals in the race in 2018 lost. So similar to now, they're challenging. They didn't challenge us this time because I think it's clear. We think we're running a clear second, just based upon outreach, based upon, social media, just based upon the communities. We have, well over 17 endorsements nationally and locally in the race. We have the most coalitions built in the race. We had the highest December in regards to grassroots fundraising in the race. So we really believe it's all coming together. But what we're saying, if it's about the movement, if it's bigger than one individual or one campaign, what I'm challenging everyone into the race to do is, once we poll, whoever is running a clear second, whether that's us or not, we believe it's us clearly, everyone else needs to step out, and support the individual that has the best chance to remove the incumbent from office, if it's truly about change and truly about, growth and progress. So that's what we're going to challenge individuals to do. Let's do some polling. Who's ever in second, everyone else step out. If I'm not in second, I will step out and support the individual that is in second, so we can make sure to get the incumbent out of office.
Of all the policies on your website, obviously every single one is kind of just a check mark for our audience, but do you want to expand a little bit on housing for all, and how do you achieve that?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's a huge issue. Again, it's an interconnected issue that exists. You can't talk about gun violence. You can't talk about employment. You can't talk about the environment. Clearly, with Bernie Sanders and Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez coming out with the Green New Deal policy with a focus on housing. Housing is a human right. As a nonprofit director, as a teacher, I work with homeless students and housing insecure students on a daily basis. We go into the communities. Winter times are brutal here, so often it leads to fatalities and deaths of our homeless populations. Whether we're clothing our homeless, feeding our homeless, making sure they're staying warm with various outreaches. Housing is a human right. Perfect example. We walked the entire district. Over 60,000 steps on my Fitbit, over 30 miles, and we visited tent cities. There's war being waged on our homeless. The last mayor, Rahm Emanuel, he's out now, but they were literally working with aldermen and alderwomen. Were destroying tent cities and displacing our homeless because, of course, individuals want to now come back and gentrify certain communities in certain areas. But where are we displacing them to? We're not eliminating homelessness. We're just placing it somewhere else. So it's extremely important to look at, again, the Green New Deal with a focus on housing, how public housing and government-owned housing plays a role, how giving individuals employment opportunities within development of new housing and improved housing in regard to our infrastructure that addresses the employment issue. It's a racial justice issue because often in urban communities who predominantly are being disproportionately impacted by HUD, housing and urban development, who continues to privatize and take money away from Black, brown, and impoverished communities. So we just truly have to invest in our public housing market. We truly have to look at the interconnected issue of rent control and lack thereof. In Illinois, there's actually a ban on rent control. So we're working with Democratic Socialists of America and so many more wonderful organizations to lift that ban on rent control. Because I have individuals that come to our organization almost on a weekly basis, to where landlords, property managements, they're raising rent yearly by like $400, $500. $400, $500. No rhyme or reason. but again, they're looking at profit.
That's ridiculous.
I had one mother who was living in it was a 2-bedroom. Her family of 4 was living in this 2-bedroom. It had mold. I literally still have the pictures on my phone, and she was afraid to whistle blow because again, they didn't have anywhere else to go, so they were breathing in toxins in a sense because she knew if she whistle blew, then there would be repercussions. And sure enough, she finally, met with us. We called it out, and then they proceeded to evict her. Thankfully, we were able to find her new housing. But again, we have to tie it into, government-owned, public housing. We have to look at how, we're working with, our underserved communities, our impoverished communities, how we're punishing individuals essentially for being poor, how we're criminalizing poverty. Particularly the Trump administration in regards to drug testing, in regards to cutting food stamp benefits and so on and so forth. These individuals depend on these benefits, and it all goes back to housing in a sense. Chicago has over 80,000 individuals currently that are homeless on a given day when you account for those families and individuals that couch surf, that go from home to home. But yet, simultaneously, we have so many vacant buildings. We have so many vacant, empty homes and vacant lots. So, how are we looking at our...
Seems to be the way everywhere.
Exactly.
I see a pattern.
Exactly. So we have to look at our banking practices, predatory lending models that exist. Again, rent control. We have to look at subsidies and giving grants and so forth to allow individuals to, purchase homes and stay in their housing. We have to look at reparations. That's part of our plan as well. How do we, invest in Black, brown, and other served communities, particularly Black communities, to provide them with the opportunity to build generational wealth? Because if you look at it, most families throughout history, they build generational wealth through property ownership. They own homes, whether they own life insurance policies, and these get passed down through generations. Meanwhile, many of us are homeless. Many of us are renting. If someone passes away, what do we have to go to? A GoFundMe account. A GoFundMe account should never take a place of a life insurance policy or a bank account. But this is where we are. So overall, it's fully articulated on our website, but we just have to look at the interconnected issue of how do we invest in our communities, ensure that individuals are not falling victim to predatory banking practices, ensuring individuals can afford their homes, ensuring HUD does not continue to push for privatization, ensuring that the Green New Deal with a focus on housing goes through and passes so we can expand the housing market, so we can expand government-owned housing and provide individuals with safe homes, as well as make sure that we could build whatever the strategy is. Because you look across the regions in the nation, whether it's small homes, whether it's using current buildings and vacant lots and building things, we should be able to house all of our homeless. And actually, if you look at the data, it's cheaper to end homelessness than it is to maintain it.
It absolutely is. I'll say this. I'm actually in Canada, but don't worry. The audience is primarily American, so you're not being listened to by a whole bunch of Canadians.
Hey, you know what? I love you. You're still my Canadian brother. When I was in the military, I was actually stationed in Tacoma, Washington. So we used to drive into Canada oftentimes to have fun and kick it at the clubs and the bars. Being young with money and
I was going to say also the drinking age probably would have been a lot younger in Canada. So definitely.
And I mean, are you a fan of Drake? Do you like Drake at all?
Yes, I've heard of him. He does the hippity hop, I hear.
That's hippity hop. But,
Drake's awesome. But
Drake has some bangers, so
One of the reasons I mentioned this though is that a small city in Alberta, obviously they had a lot of money from oil to be able to do this, decided to end homelessness by ending homelessness. They just gave all the homeless people homes, and the net benefit at the end was a savings of millions and millions of dollars to the taxpayer. Like that was what the experiment proved.
It's clear, because individuals, they're secure, it's interconnected. Then they could go back. Then they could go back to work. Health improves when you have a home. It's all interconnected. And
drug use goes down, right?
Exactly.
STDs go down. All these problems.
Because what we tell people, we have to understand in the capitalistic society, poverty pays everyone but the poor. Poverty benefits everyone but the poor. So poverty is money, whether it's somebody poor going into the prison industrial complex, whether it's somebody, is going into the military, poverty pays, but again, it's ultimately cheaper to end it in homelessness.
Yeah, absolutely. One last thing before I'm taking a lot of your time
I'm enjoying this.
Okay, awesome. Awesome. Okay, great. This
is fun. And by the way, is John Candy, isn't he Canadian?
He was. Yes, he was.
Well, I mean, wasn't he? Restless. John Candy was one of the funniest comedians ever. I just watched Home Alone, the other day, and with his appearance.
Oh yeah, he's got a guest star in that. I forgot about that.
Yeah, he was like the polka.
Yeah, he was part of that whole crew. It was like him, Rick Moranis, Stan Aykroyd, all those like super famous '80s comedians all came from the same school of comedy.
John Candy's hilarious.
One question I want to ask is about marijuana legalization. So that's also part of your platform. I'm guessing that's not available in your state yet.
No, it was actually legalized January 1st.
Oh, okay. So it's just still part of your platform. Is that to take it one step further? Because I know one problem
Correct.
with a lot of the states that legalize marijuana, they don't retroactively say pardon criminals who are in jail for possession, which seems to be like a huge problem in my mind.
Yeah, I mean, again, our main platform is federal legalization with the focus on racial justice, but of course, there's still issues statewide as well. Our state's attorney, Kim Fox, shout out to her. She's been working with the criminal justice system to actually release individuals that have been incarcerated for nonviolent, marijuana offenses. So we are addressing that issue, but we still have room to grow. Currently 8% of the tax dollars that are going to be received from legal statewide weed sales is going to go to essentially the police departments oppressing street dealers. So there's still issues that exist. We have to address that issue. We have to address the issue that only individuals with medical cards, so I'm actually a medical cannabis card holder, only medical card holders can grow within their homes legally. So there's a lot of issues that exist. Also with, because of course you're taking revenue from our police departments. They've been able to lock us up in the past due to the war on drugs, due to the prohibition of cannabis. Now that it's legal, they're searching for new streams of revenue. So they've stated that they're going to be pulling individuals over. And someone like myself who's medicated, I essentially have a high level of THC in my system on a daily basis. That doesn't mean that I'm inebriated or driving inebriated. I teach with THC in my system. So what does that mean for me? If you pull me over, I know I'm not inebriated, but because I smoke, you're going to pull me out of my vehicle. How are you going to test me? That's an issue. And we also have to eliminate, shout out to Vegas for just doing this, we cannot allow employers to discriminate. Once we legalize at a state level and once we legalize at a federal level, which will happen, I don't think any employer should be able to test for cannabis and discriminate hiring due to cannabis consumption. So that's a huge issue as well. But at a federal level, we're continuing to push. We have to have a focus on racial justice as a tie-in to reparations, invest in the communities that have been hardest hit and disproportionately represented within our criminal justice systems due to prohibition. We have to overall completely end the war on drugs. And it's an issue for me. As someone with PTSD and Behçet's disease from working with chemicals in the military and also being shot, I have PTSD. I'm extremely open about my mental health walk because I believe speaking truth helps eliminate stigmas and we all could do better. But I see a lot of the same PTSD-like symptoms in my students, in our youth. Many of them who self-medicate and don't even realize it or understand it based upon the anxieties that they experience in their daily lives, whether it be gun violence, being directly impacted by it, or seeing it on the news and TVs on a daily basis, not knowing if they're going to be able to come home, tests, quizzes, trying to get to college and then realizing that college isn't affordable. So there's just so many things that go on, gender identity, so on and so forth, trying to figure out who they are and accept that and have other people, more importantly, accept that. I mean, it's just a lot of issues that exist that our youth are experiencing. So I believe that, being extremely transparent and open with my cannabis use, pushing forward, we moved the incumbent who's currently Danny K. Davis. He was not for legalization, but because we ran, he shifted. That was extremely important. That would not have happened if we were not in that race. But we can't stop. Again, the establishment, they do something like the fight for $15, increasing minimum wage to $15. $15 is not enough. Yeah. But what they do because they want to maintain capitalism and status quo, they give you crumbs and say, okay, we did it for you. There you go.
like a UBI, like $1,000 a month.
Yeah, exactly. There you go, poor. Yeah, there you go. Go get them. But it's not enough. We can never be content when we're talking about human rights and human dignity. So just in regard to cannabis, we're going to continue to fight. We're going to continue to be extremely open, and we're going to move forward until it's legalized federally. At state level, we eliminate, the abilities to discriminate and to still disproportionately target Black and brown and poor communities.
I would argue that you're more eloquent than most people who don't have any cannabis in their systems.
Why, thank you. That may be the sativa. I don't know. Maybe it's the sativa.
Absolutely. I saw a documentary on PTSD, especially with servicemen, and how marijuana was actually such a beneficial medicine for so many of them. And yet it's not approved for federal funding or grants.
No, it's not. There's so many veterans that have to, now that it's legal, but still it impacts them. I was just talking with my father, who's a veteran as well, and he goes to, the VA, and he talks to veterans on a daily basis. There's so many veterans that wish, they could be directly prescribed it through the VA. They wish it didn't, because again, many veterans work for the VA, but if they started smoking to address their mental health issues, They could lose their employment. They could be fired, which again is an interconnected issue that exists. Housing. Many individuals that need housing, you cannot, consume marijuana because that, impact your ability to have, government funded housing. So it's just a huge issue that exists that we have to address directly.
Yeah. Do you mind answering some questions from the audience? They've been
Sure.
having me. Okay, I'll filter out all the silly ones. Don't worry.
Sure.
Can you ask him what he thinks about Warren's half-measure healthcare plan? From Ashley Luna.
Well, I'm 100% supporting Bernie. Again, I'm not a negative person. I think in a democracy, anybody and everybody should be able to run. But what I think often happens is, the Democratic Party and the establishment, they often weaponize identity. And I get it. I understand in a sense, because when Obama ran for office, my first point was I never thought I would see a black male president. I never thought I would see him in office. But then once that honeymoon phase wore off and I started to, focus greater on his policies, and recognize that his policies did not lead to collective growth or collective empowerment for black people or others.
And he really likes drones.
Yeah, really likes drones.
Yeah.
So while he brought troops back, he sent drones over.
Yeah.
So that happened. His immigration policies are extremely problematic. So when you start looking at policies, that's what I tell people. I'm always going to choose policy over identity. I truly believe, again, systemic sexism and misogyny and rape culture exist. Men are systemically part of the problem, so we have to purposely work to be part of the solution. I recognize that, and I truly want a female president, a woman president, so on and so forth. But the policies have to line up with women empowerment, with people of color empowerment, with those that are losing this class war empowerment. And I believe her half measure, again, you cannot defeat capitalism with capitalism, capitulating to corporate donors and, the oligarchy. That's not going to move us forward. It's not going to be much better than the ACA, to where we still have millions of individuals without health care. There's certain, buzzwords that I believe are directly tied to oppression, whether that be civil, options, choice. Because, again, if you're disproportionately been oppressed throughout history, do you really have options, choices? And can you really afford to be civil when we're fighting for justice? So I thank her for running. But I believe at this present time, and will always believe, that Bernie Sanders is the correct choice in regards to empowering the 99%.
And is this step one of like the 5-step plan? Are you going to be the president one day?
Actually, I don't ever want to be the president. I view myself as just someone. I actually don't want to serve, extremely long time in Congress. I believe you serve, you bold, you push for change, and then you give it up for the next leaders that are coming along that may have more energy, may have more bolder ideas than you, because they're more tied into oftentimes, the culture that exists in that moment. So I just see myself essentially serving, being as bold as possible, trying to change things on a systemic level, calling out the hypocrisy that exists in both the Democratic and Republican Party, and then hopefully stepping down and allowing someone that is either, been nurtured and come forward with us, or someone else from outside, and allow them to take over. So no, I don't ever want to be president. I don't ever want to have those type of responsibilities and exist in regard to war. Those direct responsibilities. I want to be someone who could, at a congressional level, has responsibilities to call it out and to call for change and into war. But the presidency, has never been, something. It's bigger than me, so it's never been something that's been on my mind.
Yeah, I don't know why anyone would want to do it personally.
It
looks horrible.
Again, I truly wonder, and I think again that will change with, I believe, the first, president of peace, who I believe is Bernie Sanders. But I don't know currently, is it possible to be a president and not be a warmonger? Honestly, because the Democratic and Republican Party have both engaged in warmongering historically throughout our history. So that's just something I'm not interested in.
Anthony Clark, I think it's safe to say that we'll be endorsing you. I know you probably can't accept endorsements from Canadians, and it's probably worthless. I would make a funny attack ad for you, but I found out after doing a lot of these interviews, I legally can't do that either. I'm not allowed to. I'm not allowed to make, as a Canadian, I'm not allowed to make an attack ad for you.
I didn't know that. I didn't know that, but good to know. Good to know. Because I was going to hit up Drake and be like, Drake, can you make a song? Make a diss record? Can you make a diss record? You're pretty good at rap battles. But no, from the bottom of my heart, I just appreciate this opportunity. I appreciate you having me on. I love everyone, truly fighting for everyone, whether they love me or not, whether they love the movement or not. And if you're ever in Chicago, definitely hit me up. We could go to a bar, have a beer, and talk shop.
Yeah, absolutely.
Did you enjoy what you just watched and now crave more nectar of the damned? Did you know that if you're watching on YouTube, you're only getting half the surfy experience? We upload all of our content commercial and censorship-free to our Patreon. Due to the general demonetization of our videos, we now upload half of our original content directly to those who can help us produce this show. Want even more nectar than that? Well, come join us at twitch.tv/TheSerfsTV, where we do weekly live streams, debates, interviews, AMAs, and more. If you're an Amazon Prime member, you can help support our show 100% free by subscribing to our Twitch channel. So come join us, be merry, and know that your support is helping us do great things. Like pay rent and eat. We would first and foremost like to thank our god, Nicholas Marks. We worship at your temple. We would like to thank our monarch, Elsie Hupp. Your generosity has made this entire thing possible. We would like to thank our lords, Ricky Pilgrim, I'm Raft, and Michaela Schmidt. You are the pillars of our organization. To our Knights of the Surf Table, Paul Parfit, Daniel Kahn, Fair Tahan, Clement Chutskoff, Schizosaurus, Josh Mickelson, Dr. Zayas, Cooper Pilot, Andre Lynn Epperly, Dylan Bith, Terry, Todd Buckingham, Jed Lewis, Todd Lajeunesse.